Kia ora koutou, ko Victoria McLennan Takawingwa. Please call me Vic. I am here as the CEO of IT Professionals for our latest Fireside chat, which today is with the fabulous Patrick from the Hutt Valley Chamber. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, Vic. How are you? Good. Really awesome to be here. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming along. You asked me how I was, so I am going to tell everyone I've got COVID. So please bear with me if I start to lose my voice. But I've designed this so Patrick can do most of the talking and I'll do most of the listening today. So just want to remind everyone this is a webinar. If you want to ask Patrick any questions, there's a Q&A function. And please, no question's a dumb question. Just type them in and I'll weave them into asking him while we're chatting. So Patrick, to kick us off, why don't you tell us a bit about your potted history and your career journey before you joined the Hutt Chamber?
Gosh, well, I'm quite old now, Vic, so I've got a wee bit of a story, and it's but most of my career has been sales and marketing for various organisations. I probably started off in the marketing area and moved to sales. Whether that's a good thing or not, I'm not sure. But I spent in my career in New Zealand, which has been I've been here about 30 years, originally from the UK. I spent 8 years with a logistics shipping company, which was, I had a brilliant start to my time here in New Zealand. They shipped me off to America for 2 years to work over in America, and that was an awesome experience. And then I came back and worked for New Zealand Post for 17 years. That was despite the advice from my father that said never stay with a company for more than 2 years, but there you go. But it was, I moved around a lot within New Zealand Post Group in their main business, out in their subsidiaries. And had the most amazing opportunities that always came up, often as a result of restructures. And that, to be honest, that was the best piece of advice I ever had around restructures was think of them as an opportunity. I know whilst you're in those things, it's hard work to think of it as an opportunity, but somebody gave me that advice and it really changed my perspective when New Zealand Post were restructuring every 15 minutes, it seemed like, at the back in the day. I then had 4 years at the Ministry of Education, and to be honest, you might think that's a bit of an odd move, but I went there to establish their work to connect the ministry to the world of work, so with employers, business and industry. I still say this today that was quite surprising. They didn't have somebody in their head office that was doing that work, but it was the most amazing work, particularly on the side of the employers, the industry, the schools, because there was so much demand for that connection with the world of work. The ministry side of things, awesome people, slightly more challenging to take them on that journey, if I could be really honest about that. Part of the work I did at the ministry was to establish a network of organisations around the country as part of a budget bid that we call Education to Employment. That's where there is an organisation in a community that is supporting the connection between our schools and our businesses here in our local community. The Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce were one of the organisations that was selected, and when their CE role came up for grabs, I put my hand up, and here I am 3 years into working at the Chamber of Commerce. And
wow.
The Hutt Valley is an amazing place to work, but we'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just love how all of your experience, logistics, the Ministry of Education, all led to your current role, which is awesome. And I hadn't realised you'd been in New Zealand that long. Your accent's never mellowed in the whole time I've known you, which is crazy. But I know very little about chambers of commerce, and I'm guessing the same with some of the people listening. So can you tell us a bit about the role and scope of a chamber and what's involved in your role as the CEO?
Yeah, so the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce is part of a network of chambers of commerce in New Zealand. So there's about 26 or 27 chambers of commerce. We're a network. We often work together. So I do a lot of work with the Auckland Business Chamber, for example. I do a lot of work with my local chambers here in the region. But we're ostensibly all here to support our business community, and that can mean all sorts of things. On a to bring it back to my role on a daily basis, I'm out with businesses, listening, learning, understanding what their opportunities and challenges are. That leads to a bunch of advocacy work. So this week, for example, I've been writing to the Minister of Energy about the energy prices, the electricity prices, which are just crazy for our businesses at the moment. We're hearing the stories, but even at a small business level or a medium-sized business level, it's having a significant impact for our business community. We do a lot of connecting. So when we're listening and learning, we're also listening and learning for how we can help those businesses connect. We do a lot of support and training through events activity. So we're normally running a number of events each week. Yesterday, for example, we had a local AI expert running an event for an organisation, which I understand was super valuable for them, because AI, they're looking to understand how AI can support their business. And so we do a lot of that stuff. We also run, bit of a shameless plug, our business awards, which are coming up on the 15th of November. Entries are open, and they're a fantastic way to showcase the amazing businesses that we have here, not only in the Hutt Valley, but in the wider Wellington region. So it's a Wellington Regional Business Excellence Awards, and you can find out more details on our website. There you go.
Nice. Thanks for that. So what's so special about the Hutt? I'm guessing you live there, you've got an affinity with the Hutt, but I know that... No?
Yeah, no, I don't live here. I live in Isle of Bay in Wellington, but I spend 90% of my time out here. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
What's special?
Yeah.
Look, I think there's a whole bunch of stuff. So, firstly, we have the most amazing businesses out here, and I'm not just saying that because we're a support organisation. I spend most of my time outside of the office, which is a really valuable part of the role that I have. But actually, when I'm outside of the office, I'm meeting people and seeing organisations that do the most brilliant work. So, maybe a couple of examples. We have a really strong manufacturing sector out here in the Hutt Valley. We are making parts for Rocket Lab. We are making Mexican chips. And look, there's all sorts of manufacturing businesses here that support New Zealand. They support our local economy. They support businesses across the country, and they support our economy. It's a big part of our network. We also have a bunch of science research and innovation kind of organisations. So we're lucky to have GNS here. We're lucky to have Callaghan Innovation here, and some of the businesses that exist in and around the Callaghan Innovation site, the Ferrier Institute, the Paihau Robinson Research Institute. I mean, they're doing leading edge work right here in the Hutt Valley, which is world renowned. So we've got Paihau, who are leading work with Airbus, one of the major plane manufacturers. I was just talking to Rod Badcock from Paihau this morning, and he's been over in Toulouse at the Airbus factory working with them to develop electric plane engines. And we're doing that right here in the Hutt Valley. And so we are very different to Wellington City. We describe the work we do as very hands-on. And of course, then we've got a lot of construction and infrastructure work to come. We've got some big investments coming from the government in and around the Hutt Valley, which will create jobs, it will create opportunities, it will create skills development training for our community and our people. And so, I get overly excited about the work here in the Hutt Valley.
Excited. Yeah.
Because I get so thrilled. Like the 40-year me goes out to these businesses today, and if I'd known what I know now about businesses and some of the opportunities, maybe I would be doing something different, because there's so many opportunities for our young people coming through our system. So it's pretty cool.
Well, that's a really nice segue into my next question, because all of this getting out and about and talking to businesses in your community means you'll have a really good handle on the economy now in 2024. So what are your observations of the year so far, and how businesses are feeling about the economy moving forward?
Look, I think honestly, it's tough. It really is. The cost of doing business, whether that be insurance costs, whether that be rates costs, whether that be the current prices, electricity costs, which, I had a business tell me the other day that their spot price had gone from 20 cents to 85 cents per unit. So all of those things are adding tens of thousands of dollars to the cost of doing business. And businesses, in my mind, don't always, they're not totally going to be passing those on really quickly. That in lots of cases they can't, and in lots of cases they don't want to. They want to support their customers. They want to support. They know how tough it is. They're right in it, and so they're not looking to make hay when the sun shines. Around pricing or the cost of doing. They're trying to do the best thing they can for their customers, and that's the reality. But it is tough. It is hard work. On the other side, there are businesses that are doing well in the current environment. I was talking to a plumbing company the other day, have about 10 to 15 people, and they're doing well. They've got a bunch of work going on. They've got a pipeline of work coming up. I was talking to a tech manufacturing company this morning, and 99% of their product goes overseas. And things are good. They're doing well compared to a year ago. So there's pockets of good, but generally it's generally quite hard work.
So not trying to double down on that, but we do have a question on the message board about how your local companies are coping with the public sector cuts and impacts to agencies like Callaghan Innovation. They say that friends at Callaghan have recently lost their jobs. The kinds of investments that you're talking about, is your local community concerned about the impacts of government cuts in that sort of science technology space?
100%. I mean, it's something. In fact, we were just in a meeting yesterday talking about our concern with the review. With the review that's going on, with the potential impact of changes to the science kind of research space, particularly around Callaghan. We're not really sure about where that's going to land. The unusual thing is that the Callaghan site here in Gracefield could be the most brilliant place for a cluster of businesses to start up, to grow, to collaborate, to work together, to create a business which can eventually move out of there and sustain itself. The kind of changes in Callaghan at the moment don't necessarily align with that idea that we can do more and we can do better. So we just have to wait and see what the review kind of pinpoints. We were very hopeful under the last government with the investment, I think around 271 million in the idea of Science City. That's kind of disappeared for the time being, and who knows, it might come back. But we do have this ecosystem here in the Hutt Valley, which is not well known, and it's something that we're constantly working on. That where science, education, manufacturing, research can come together in a way which creates jobs, it creates ideas, it creates opportunities, it creates wealth for not only our region but for New Zealand. We've maybe the best example I have off the top of my head is a company called Aotearoa Diagnostics. And sorry, I shamelessly will plug some of the. They're in the biotech space. They employ about 45 people. They literally make a shot glass worth of product every year, and people won't believe that, but that's literally their annual production. And they sustain 45 high-paid jobs. They're doing really well. They're part of the biotech industry, producing very small quantities for the autoimmune industry. But they came out of, maybe 30, 40 years ago, they came out of the old kind of CRI that was there. And now they're this business which is exporting all over the world and creating jobs and wealth and opportunity. And they're based right here in the Hutt Valley. You would not believe the quality of the people and the work that these guys do. But it's tiny quantities because they ship it in little vials and anyway, it's
Wow.
very exciting kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
thanks. That was a good answer to that audience question. So just to talk about what our audience is interested in, which is digital technology, and there's lots of topics that you and I could discuss: education, pathways into the workforce, the importance of STEM, sector growth, rah-de-rah. I thought we could start with youth-focused initiatives because that, and you and I met when you were at the Ministry of Education, and I know this is an area you're really passionate about. And there's a few initiatives, and I see you've got the TechStep banner behind you.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, exactly. How about you tell us about some of the initiatives that you're involved in the Hutt?
Yeah, so look, the first thing is our education to employment work. It's a program of work that it operates. I think there's about 20 of us around the country, organisations that support the engagement between our schools and our employers, or vice versa, and that includes careers teachers, principals, any type of employer. And we really that focus is on that engagement on a journey that we talk about is discover, explore, connect to, and experience. And so we're looking to provide a journey for our rangatahi in our schools that can help them to see, to discover, to actually then connect to people, to learn more about the jobs, and then to experience the jobs whilst they're in secondary education. It is the most fantastic piece of work when it works, and we get a lot of satisfaction out of it. Is, as you say, it is a passion of mine. I probably talk about it too much, but and people probably say, well, why is a business organisation doing this? Well, actually, the number one thing that our businesses have traditionally talked about is, where is my future talent coming from? And so it's a really natural connection between the business community and our schools, and it's a really natural connection in the journey of talent, because in actual fact, a business can employ somebody. That's often based on an hour maybe of interviewing. You read some CVs, you don't get to know the person. The journey that we talk about, and we do use a term called work integrated learning here. It's used in other kind of senses, but we talk about work integrated learning, which gives the young person a much more thorough view of the business, but it gives the business a much greater understanding of the young person and where they might fit in, how they can be supported, where that talent might be useful for their business. It certainly gives the young person a real good go at, is this the right thing for me? And actually, if the young person said no, then that's a good thing. We've achieved something which is positive, and we find the next thing for them to have a go at. So, we do a bunch of work in that space. We've just had the biggest careers event that happens in the Wellington region. It's much bigger than the one in the Wellington city. We had 1,700 people. We had 90 stands from, which I think it's important to say that the focus of our event was largely around construction, infrastructure, and technology. Wow. And the reason we have that focus is because we've got $5 to $6 billion worth of construction and infrastructure work to do, and we've got an increasing demand for technology-enabled talent that can fit into our workplace. And what we're doing is trying to create the connection to inform and inspire our young people to deliver something which is meaningful in terms of, a careers event, if I could be really critical, can often be get bums on seats for organisations. We're not trying to create that. Of course, we have those organisations at our event. It's much more about the connection between an employer and a young person. We do a couple of other things. One is a program of work called Skills for Mahi. That's a piece of work that we're getting funding from JP Morgan, the big bank. interesting fact about JP Morgan is they have 325,000 employees around the world. The Hutt Valley has 150,000 people living here, or thereabouts. So, they're, as a company, they're almost double the size of our whole region, which is, it blows my mind. But they have a foundation, they support some work around the world, and they're supporting us to deliver a specific program for Maori and Pacific Year 11 students to help them build their skills for the world of work. So teamwork, problem solving, communication, and a whole bunch of other kind of work-ready skills, alongside helping them to see our manufacturing and engineering community, which again is one of our biggest industries here. As part of a journey to help them build the skills and connect them to what some possible futures might be. And so, that's a really
Wow.
That's a really nice way of kind of connecting as well. And we do TechStep. So TechStep is a brilliant program that's funded by MB. We're doing it in conjunction with the Auckland Business Chamber, and TechStep is about informing and inspiring those people that don't have necessarily an easy journey into the tech industry. So it's very focused on Maori, Pacific women, where the stats are awful for that group. It's very focused on people with disabilities, neurodiverse community, job changes, but also those influencers of our young people, and of course our young people. So we run some events. We've got a website up and running, which has got a whole bunch of inspiring stories. TechStep.nz, just more shameless plugging.
Yeah.
But that's it's been running for a year, and the engagement that we're getting online, the engagement we're getting on the resources that we have, the engagement we're getting through events that we're running is phenomenal. So we hope we're making a difference in that part of that inform and inspire part.
Awesome.
So, we're super excited about all of our work. But
it sounds like you're doing great mahi there. Before we move off this topic, one of my quests in life is to change this paradigm where, when it comes to creating entry-level roles, so internships and graduate placements into business, and growing our own capability here in New Zealand. Sorry, I'm going to cough.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's a tendency by tech employers to want perfectly formed seniors. What do you think we can do to change that paradigm?
So I think we need to start in our schools. We honestly need to start in our schools. And the example I'll give you is it tech related? It's engineering related. So it's part of that STEM suite. So when I talk about work-ready learning, the thing we're doing in Nainai College here in the Hutt Valley is something called the Hutt Valley Engineering Academy. We've got a group of young people learning and academically achieving around engineering and the engineering profession. So they're doing hands-on stuff, but they're also doing academic study around that. And they're doing a wider study, but they're also having the opportunity to go out and do work experience. They're having the opportunity to go and get practical skills, which actually translates into often into work experience, often into holiday experience, and then often into apprenticeships. And so apprenticeships are the kind of form of internships that you talked about, and other things in that industry. And I think we need to be doing more of that. I think you can't leave these things to chance, is my thing. You've got to kind of almost curate them for both business and for young people. And if you go back to what I was talking about earlier, that a business gets a lot of value out of seeing and engaging with young people. They get a sense of supporting their community, but they definitely get a sense of which are the right talent for my business that I can employ in the future. So we need to be doing more of that. There's not enough support for those things. It's quite hard to do.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to do it. We're also doing the same thing in the infrastructure industry here as well, which I think is really interesting in itself. So.
Nice, thanks. And apologies to everyone about my COVID and coughing. This is the most I've talked all week, I think. I've got a question from the message board from Simon about how you go about measuring the impact of your youth-based mahi. And I know that's quite a precise question, putting you on the spot.
Look, yeah, I mean, it varies. We are, in our normal kind of education to employment work, the requirement there is about, numbers of engagement. It's about the outcomes to employment. So we measure some of that with our skills for mahi work. We're measuring start and end of program for, how do the young people feel about the skills that they need for the world of work, and how do they feel about their knowledge of industries from the start to the end of the program. And I can tell you that at the Nainai College example, which we finished at the end of term 2, the results were amazing in terms of how the students felt about their confidence, about the knowledge of the industries, about what skills they needed for the world of work. And all of that, even at year 11, makes a difference to their engagement, future engagement with employers. It makes a difference to their decision making. The tech step work is measured, a lot because we're able to measure the number of people coming. We're able to measure student outcome, at events where there are people and students, we're able to measure that through the survey feedback. But specifically for our online kind of activity, we're able to measure the engagement, the time spent on the resources and activities. So yeah, we do a lot of measurement. Do people always listen to the results in making decisions in other places? Not always, but there's a lot of data and
lots of pilots with data out there, aren't there? Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
New subject. I want to talk about SMEs and businesses a bit more.
Yeah.
So we all know that there's a bit of a digital literacy or digital divide challenge for SMEs. Many of them struggling to adopt technology. What have you been seeing? Have the efforts that have been put in recent years starting to pay some yields? Have all the tradies stopped using their little books to write down the quotes and started using an online system yet?
Look, I would say no, not all. But look, the adoption of technology to make running a small business, I guess, has been, it's been increasing. Is that the nirvana of where we can do things? I mean, there's obviously the answer to that is no. Xero makes a big difference to organisations because it makes things easier to, invoice, to keep a track of your income and outgoings, and so those sorts of tools make a big difference to a small business. I'm a small business. That's been the biggest change coming from the Ministry of Education, actually, or the New Zealand Post Group, is I'm a small business, and we have all of the challenges of small businesses whilst trying to support businesses. I think, though, that and we were having this conversation this morning around productivity. Our businesses really using the tools and the resources to the level that could make productivity better. I think the answer to that is some will be and some aren't. And that applies to a whole bunch of stuff, really. I think, and we were talking this morning to somebody about environment and sustainability activity in a business, and businesses know that there's all of these things. They know they need to be doing things, but time-wise, it's hard to find the time to do this sometimes. Even though in a big business, you would talk about, well, make the time because you'll get the time back. It's just really hard to find the time, because you're doing, down
you're doing everything, right?
Doing this stuff, and again, in our case, we're working 10 hours a day. We're working weekends often, but and therefore making the time to do some stuff is not as easy as it could be. And I think that's we're a very typical example. We've started to use AI a little bit, so but very basically, ChatGPT we use a little bit, not in a I think in a sensible way. And businesses are definitely thinking about how they can use those kind of tools. As I said, maybe we said earlier, but we had a guy running a session yesterday for a business here around AI and how they can use it, and their feedback was, well, this is, we could actually do some really cool things with AI. It might take us a bit of work to get there, but actually it could make our, some of our work much more simple and valuable than it currently is.
So you've talked a bit about AI, which is very topical.
Yeah.
And you've talked about the diverse range of businesses that you work with as a chamber, for everything from high-tech manufacturing through to tradespeople.
Yeah.
Everyone. Talk to me a little bit about some of the top digital trends that are impacting the businesses in your region. So that obviously there's AI. Are there other areas that people are interested in learning more about at the moment?
Look, what would I say to that? We don't hear a lot about those things. If that's, this could be a really short answer, because we don't hear a lot about those things. I think, it's interesting. About a year ago, we got engaged with the Digital Boost kind of program a little bit. And look, I think that was useful. Was it as useful as it could be? Maybe not. But I think it was useful to some businesses. I think the real answer there is, I think businesses are very different, and different businesses have different uptakes of the need for digital tools. I think from a marketing perspective, a lot of businesses are now using the data available from Google or from engagement activity to measure and monitor their success of their communications or their online activity. A lot of people are doing online activity. Are a lot of people doing it as well as they could do? No, they're not. So, there's a lot of work to do, I think. But being time poor is not our friend. Yeah.
I have often thought I should talk to you about, is there a role of a kind of a digital navigator for businesses who aren't digital native businesses to help them kind of make sound decisions instead of being upsold to by salespeople, if you know what I mean.
And I would 100% agree with that. I think the businesses want to know, there's the time poor thing, but they want to know how that will improve their business. And, when you're being sold something, that's all well and good. But you're being sold something that for a reason, and you might decide to buy that because you think it's a good idea. Then you get the value out of that tool always in the way that you might do? I mean, I'm a basic Xero user. Am I using the tool in a way which could really give me no, I'm not. We use we've got a company here, Arlo, shameless plug. They do a event management system. They sell their product all over the world, really successful. We use their tool. It's fantastic for managing our events and activity. Do we use it in its entire form? Probably not, is the answer. And so possibly the value that we're not getting and other businesses aren't getting because you don't understand the breadth of capability of those things after you've bought it is probably alive and well. Again, we're probably a great example of that, I think.
Good insight. Right, I'm going to take us on a completely different tangent now. I'm very conscious of time. It's really great to have you here talking to us today because you have got all of this experience. So if any of our listeners are interested in starting their own businesses or going out on their own, what's one piece of advice that you'd give them?
I think talk to other people that have been there and done that. Join your local Chamber of Commerce would be the second advice. And I say that kind of flippantly, But look, let me give you an example of what, and that it covers both the talking to people and joining your Chamber of Commerce. So we've got a gentleman in our chamber. He's a marketing guru. He came from Nokia in Finland, so he's been he's got more experience than I have in my little toe probably, but he's joined the chamber because he's based here in the Hutt Valley. He comes to all of the networking events to meet people and learn things, and he's building his business based on that networking and that getting to know people and getting to listen and learn to what they're doing and where there might be opportunities for him as a business. And so, I was talking to the plumber that I was referencing earlier. I think they've got a really solid pipeline of work because of the relationships they built across their community. They're in the rugby club. They've got kids at school. The wife is on the board of directors for the school. They've built networks where work comes to them because of their networks, and the same with our member. He's built networks which are now benefiting his business, and there are ways to do that, but you've got to be active in building those networks. I mean, we also have people come and join the chamber and expect things to happen for them, and they don't come to events and they don't do things. And that isn't what we'll provide. Right. We'll provide the facility for that to happen, but you've got to get off your backside and do some of that yourself, because those networks and those connections are your most valuable resource when it comes to building your business.
Yeah, nice. It's really good advice, and it also gives us some insight into kind of that local ecosystem that people create. Which is really important. All right. Well, last question. Well, it's really an open-ended thing. Is there anything else really cool you want to tell us about?
What would it? I think the biggest struggle, maybe not struggle, but I go to a lot of events, and I start talking about the Hutt Valley. So my thing is, come to the Hutt Valley and have a look for yourself. And that's not about, it might be about the Petone eateries and all that kind of things. But if you're in business and you want to know about some amazing businesses that are doing cutting edge, world renowned research, innovation, manufacturing, come and have a look. I mean, when I start talking about the Hutt Valley at Wellington events, and I'm assuming there's a few people from Wellington on the call, they're just blown away by what the Hutt Valley does and what it contributes to our regional economy. And it's just, look, I get a lot of joy out of working here. I get a lot of joy out of going and sitting down with people and just hearing about what they're doing. And it's, come and spend some time out in the Hutt Valley, come to the Chamber of Commerce and see some of the things we're doing. And that's not, I'm not looking for people to spend their money here. It's such an exciting part of our community. It is so different to sitting in the Ministry of Education offices. The joy I got, funnily enough, out of working at the Ministry of Education was being outside of the Ministry of Education, to be honest, and working with employers and schools. And that's where the heart of our communities is. It's in our communities, and the people and the opportunities here, the jobs that are created, the things that people are doing, it's just amazing. It really is. And I use the word amazing a lot, but it is. So there you go.
Love it. That's such a great note to end on. Thank you so much for your time today. Awesome. and for answering the live questions. And by the way, Simon followed up to thank you for the answer to his question. Really appreciate this. This will be processed and be online. So I'll send you a link, Patrick. You can share it with other people if they want to hear your passion and enthusiasm.
Maybe you could deal with my wrinkles first or something like that.
Thanks for your time today. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks a lot.
Ka kite.
See ya.